करे रज रज कर मैं प्यार नी अपने तो ज्यादा मैनू दे दुआर नी करे रज रज कर मैं प्यार नी अपने तो ज्यादा
together on the mountain here today. We've got some incredible bands who have come to donate their time to keep the energy up. A couple minutes up here, we'll have Delhi to Dublin. Thank you guys. We've got the Boom Booms here this afternoon. Thank you guys. Give it up for the Boom Booms. We have so many incredible people who have brought together their energy, their ideas, their strategies, who have been working in their communities, who have been working on the mountain, and we're so excited that so many of them are here to share their stories with you today. Because just like in nature, we are stronger as a result of our diversity. All right. So, first up on the stage, I'd like to introduce you to two incredibly powerful women who have done so much to help protect this mountain and to stop Kinder Morgan. Ruth Walmsley of Broke. Let's give it up for Broke. Yeah. And of course, you all know Professor Lynn Cornby. Let's give it up.
It is really such an honor to be here, and I just want to start by acknowledging the unceded Coast Salish territory that we're all gathered here on today, and just the importance of being allies together, that none of us can do this alone, that only working together is the only way that we're going to be able to win this, to defend the earth and win this fight. So much of what's already been said has been, what I wanted to say, but I did want to say that we have heard messages of support and solidarity rallies happening all over the world in solidarity with us here today. People in places all over the world are standing with us today, including Tofino, Kelowna, Kamloops, Victoria, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Thunder Bay, Windsor, Ontario, Elsipogtog, Denver, Texas, Seattle, Idaho, New York, England, Glasgow, Stockholm, Sweden, Eritrea, New Zealand, and Adelaide, Australia. Let's hear it for all the people. Yeah. So we all know that this pipeline is just one of the many battles that we are facing right now, but it's our battle. But just as the world is standing with us today, we all need to be standing with others who are fighting similar battles, such as the Klabona Keepers and the Unistoten Camp, just to name a couple. I'd also like to acknowledge the awesome team of lawyers who have been defending us against Kinder Morgan in the courts. Kinder Morgan is suing 4 people, including Lynn and my friend Alan and 3 others, for $5.6 million for conspiracy in an attempt to intimidate and silence those of us who are standing up against big oil and the destruction of the earth. No. We have this team of 3 lawyers representing all 5 defendants, and last Thursday they went to court for us and succeeded in kicking Kinder Morgan off the mountain. charges dropped against approximately 120 land defenders who were arrested. However, the SLAP suit is still ongoing. Our lawyers will be back in court demanding that the civil suit be dropped and that we all be awarded damages and court costs. This process might take months or even years. There is an ongoing need for financial support, and there are 2 legal defense funds which have been set up in support of the 5 defendants. So if you go to the Burnaby Mountain updates on Facebook, you will find both links under posts to page. So if you can, please consider that. So while there's still more work ahead of us before this pipeline is completely dead, today is a day to celebrate what we've been able to accomplish so far, and thanks to each and every one of you for coming out to help us celebrate.
It's really great to see so many people out here today. It's been a long stretch demanding a lot of energy from people. So this really says something to see everybody out here in this beautiful place on this beautiful day. It's been a really challenging time. This battle's been going on for a long time, but the last 2 months have been really intense. And those at the core of it, there's been some pretty challenging emotional times when we're not getting enough sleep and everyone's cold and tired, and lots of different views about how to proceed. I think one of the greatest accomplishments is that we have all come together and made it through all of that together. And what I really feel standing up here and listening to the goings on today, and the fact that we're all here to celebrate this transition, this closing of this particular chapter, celebrating that we've done well in this chapter, coming together to connect and to build our strength for whatever is coming next. And we know this is always dynamic. We can't predict it. We don't know what's going to happen. And we will each go off and approach it in different ways with different tactics. And we need to step back and remember that we're all heading in the same direction, and to be open and to support those tactics. And what I feel so strongly is that we're in the process of forging a new peoples. We are becoming together a new people on planet Earth with a shared values and a shared vision for our future.
My name's Karen Mahan, and I came up to the mountain about 10 days ago when I heard there were people up there camping, and I came up to see what they were doing. And I was so impressed with the caretakers who basically have set up an occupation of this mountain and have been here for months in the rain and the snow, camping right on the spot where Kinder Morgan was going to put their drill in. Of course, when the police came in, they arrested all of those caretakers. And then that began a flood of arrests, as you saw. We had 125 people arrested here on Burnaby Mountain. 125 people. Okay. The youngest was 11. The oldest was 87. Grand Chief Stuart Phillip came and was arrested with Taha on Thursday. Amazing, amazing. It was such a great day and such a sad day. It was such a great day to see with such dignity and pride how he stood for the land and led us as he crossed the line, and such a sad day, because how can it be that our chiefs have to be arrested to be heard in this society? You will know that I was one of the people arrested, and you will know that we were all arrested. We were charged with civil contempt of court. And then the most interesting thing happened. On Thursday of this week, when Kinder Morgan went to court to have the timeline of the injunction extended, we found out that they had the wrong GPS coordinates. Yeah, so this is an oil company that is asking us to trust them with our land and our future, and they don't know how to work a GPS. So, we're going to take 2 minutes right now and do a little mini workshop called GPS for Dummies. Dan Lewis from Clackwood Action is going to come up and show us how to work a GPS, and we hope you're watching, Kinder Morgan.
I'd like to first begin to acknowledge that we're standing on unceded Coast Salish territory. It's an honor to stand with you all here today. We came all the way down from Tofino to send a clear message to Kinder Morgan that this pipeline will not be built. What I have in my hand here is a GPS unit. This stands for, I hope you're listening, Kinder Morgan, this stands for Global Positioning System. This is a system that was developed by the U.S. military back in the 70s to help them bomb the rest of the world into submission. It's also been taken up by hikers and kayakers and industry. It's very useful for figuring out where you are anywhere on this planet. It's a fairly complicated device. It's about as complicated as a smartphone. So you really have to know how to use it. First of all, always make sure you have an extra set of batteries in case your batteries die. And also make sure you have a paper map in case the thing craps out. Okay, with that in mind, what you do to operate a global positioning system, first you turn it on using the power button on the side of the device. Now it takes a couple of minutes for it to kick in. It's now picking up some satellites, and as soon as it gets 3 satellites, it'll know exactly where we are. Oh, it's on, and there we go. Now, what you then do is you mark what's called a waypoint. And to do that, you push the button that says mark. So you push the mark button, and then it'll tell you where you are using little numbers. Now this is very important. You have to get the numbers right. So you have to actually read what it says on the screen and write the numbers down correctly. This is very important if you say wanted to build a pipeline through your neighbor's backyard. It's also very important, as you know, anybody trying to build pipelines at the end of the era of fossil fuels will face massive resistance. They may have to go to court and try to have injunctions. And so it's also very important if you're in court that you write the numbers down correctly. Because as you know, courts are so stickler for detail and they want things to be absolutely precise, kind of like military precision. So you mark the waypoint and then you can move to another location, and again you hit mark, it saves it for you, and you have another position, and then you have a line in between those waypoints. Say you wanted to say, do not cross this line, like they did here on Burnaby Mountain. So, in a nutshell, that's how you operate a GPS unit. Remember, just to review quickly, hit the power button and then hit the mark button. But make sure you get the numbers right. Thank you. Take go, take go.
Did you hear that, Kinder Morgan?
2 buttons, that's it.
So this week was an incredible convergence. As Grand Chief Stuart Phillips said, this is an incredible convergence of different people from different communities coming together to stand up and be heard, to register, to write their names in the book of history under the column, I do not consent. And I'm going to introduce you to one now. This is Father Calig Hainsworth. The father came up with a delegation of pastors and members of different faith communities who crossed the line and were arrested, including Father Hainsworth's 13-year-old daughter.
First of all, I want to acknowledge, like everybody else has acknowledged, that we are standing on unceded territory. And I'd also like to acknowledge my great honor in being present with you here on this day. Because on this day, we are celebrating a victory. We are having a celebration. We don't get many of those. So let's make this one count. Now, I was here on Thursday. I was here with a group of other faith and ministers and pastors who all gathered to support the Grand Chief and the First Nations who gathered here to make their all-important voice heard to Kinder Morgan and the world. It was a remarkable day. Because as we gathered and walked up the road and turned left into the forest, it was a beautiful moment. Because before us were the drums and the singing of the First Nations of this, their land.
Right on!
And behind us was a choir singing a cappella, this beautiful music. And as I heard the First Nation peoples go into the dark, wet, muddy forest, their voices muffled and moving into the trees, behind me, bringing up the rear, were all of the singers and the choir behind us. It was a beautiful moment of convergence. And there in the dark, wet forest, the arrests were being made. The speakers were speaking. And just at that moment, unbeknownst to us, there was another victory happening in the courthouse. And at that moment, somebody looked up and they saw an eagle fly directly over us. And everybody made exclamations about that, and we all know what that means. We had nature, we had God, we had the Creator, we had the Maker, and all the saints and the angels and the people and our ancestors crying out on our side on that day. But I just have two things that I would like to say today. First, I want to name where we're at. This is definitely a victory, but it is only the beginning of a battle. And all of us who are gathered here today are really gathering ourselves in and preparing for a battle that is to come.
Right.
And let me tell you about this battle. This is not just a battle against the powers that be. This is not a battle just against the money and the politics and the power and the corruption that we face everywhere in the world. That would be a great battle, but it is not as great as what we are facing. This is not a battle for democracy. That would be a great battle.
Right.
This is not a battle for human rights. That would be a great battle. Many battles have been fought for these things in the past. No. What we stand at the beginning of now is a battle for our own survival. This is a battle against the extinction of our race and all the races and peoples and all of the planet that we stand on. We are in a battle with nature.
People showed up and they crossed that line. People showed up and they got arrested. Hundreds of people showed up and they supported those people who were getting arrested. But what's going on with the multi-billion corporations? What kind of line are they crossing? They've crossed a red line. Thousands of them up in northern Alberta. They've crossed the red line with Imperial Mines up in Chilcotin country. They've crossed the line and they want to cross more lines in Shekwetmuk country. They've crossed the line with open net fish farms on the coastal waters of BC. They've crossed the line here on Burnaby Mountain. They want to cross the line over there in Kwantlen territory. Brandon Gabriel said, we're drawing a line and you're not crossing it. We're going to support Kwantlen First Nation just like we're all supporting Burnaby Mountain. We're supporting the Tsleil-Waututh. We're supporting the Musqueam. We're supporting the Squamish. We're supporting the Secwepemc. We're supporting people from all over BC. And we're doing it because we want to save the world from global warming that is going to bring unbearable living conditions to future generations. This must stop!
The energy is here. That's the east. Siam to the south is our feelings, our emotions, and we stand together. And to the west, it has been said that that medicine is going to come from the west, the thunder beams. Siam the slach and Siam. That medicine is going to come out, and it's going to be the red. And that's why we're here today, the red population of our mother. And to the north represents our tradition, our culture, our spirit today. You feel it. See, and we stand on that ground, the mak'a, that snow you call it, that represents the blanket of purity, of pureness. And we're going to begin that today with our good, kind thoughts towards one another and towards what we're looking at in our goals and our objectives. That's what that bundle represents, and all the nations that came together to support that, to say we're with you, brothers, we're with you, sisters, we're here to stand with you. As it was mentioned, it traveled many miles, many years of preparation to get this bundle together. So we're going to pray with that now, at this time, to the directions of how we recognize it. To the east is the yellow, to the south is the white, to the west is the red, to the north is the black. And they represent the races of the world. And for some of us today, we come from in between. But we want to stand together, not samat. One mind, one heart. And that's how it's going to work. We come together.
There was a ceremony done in Tsleil-Waututh early this morning in sunrise with my community. In the ceremony, they called down our ancestors. We got messages from our ancestors, and they said they're happy today. They're happy and proud of the people that sacrificed here. They're happy and proud of the people that stuck through the cold and the rain and the snow and the ice and the mud. They're happy for that. They said they're also happy for the ones that have been in the battle. Some of the same people that sat up here have been in the battle for a long time. We started this campaign, Ben and our teachers here, Phil Lane, Robert Nahaney, Lee Brown, Shane Point, Jerry Sparrow, Ta'a, Audrey Rivers. We sat down with a group of 20 environmentalists, and they said, we need your help. And Ben was one of them that orchestrated this meeting. And I said, we'll show you why. We will help. We'll show you why we do what we do. And we'll show you how you could help us. So he said, but first, on our guidance of our elder, Robert Nahaney, he said, come and pray with us first. So for 2 months, that's what they did. Rex Weiler, Ben, and about 20 other environmentalists came and prayed with us. We showed them our ceremonial and sacred connections to our lands and to our waters. And what we wanted to do is mend any hardships that may have happened in the past. Because we had to come together in unity. We have to think healthy of ourselves, to have a good walk and a good path. You know, at times, especially seeing my mom get arrested, you know, I just wanted to grab somebody and show them the warrior that I am. And I had to restrain myself. My teachers told me that before I came up. Actually, they tell me almost every day. But I go by the teachings and the guidance of our community that put up that referendum, who are guided by our elders. And I remember the words that they said about our relations at the Alberta tar sands. They said, if our relations over there are dying, that's reason enough for us to say no. And the elder picked up his great-great-grandchild and said, this is why I'm going to fight it, and this is why we'll put in our resources. You know, I see some of my relations right here from northeast of Mexico that are fighting mining, doing the same thing. I saw their documentary and I heard their words, and I see in their ceremonies that what is leading them in their fight is the culture and spirituality. When we're going against something that makes $71 million a day, what do we have? When we're a small little community like this, we have our prayer. So I thank you. And whether you believe in prayer or not, I know when you believe in your goal with everything that we and emotionally, eventually your spirit's going to believe, and it's going to make your path to your goal easier. But it's still work, and I thank you and congratulate you for coming together in unity. And we'll need more of that, because this is one battle. This is one battle, and we will keep going until we win this war. And we will win. I'm very proud at Tsleil-Waututh's legal battle. When we started, Ben and I, we sent out 500 flyers here in Burnaby 4 years ago. And 10 people showed up, but we still did it. We did it for 6 months straight, every day. We did something somewhere, and now look at you. Look at this, 71% of Burnaby residents support the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and soon Canada. That's what happens when we educate people on the true facts of what happens, and what is happening, and what is going on. That we don't need. That's a prime example of these solar panels right here. That's a good example of good clean energy that will save our economy better than oil. That'll create more jobs better than oil. That'll save our earth and our land and our water and the people than oil. So I'm tired. I'm tired, but I feel really beautiful today, and I feel the reverence today. And I really, really encourage you in a good way. Listen to the teachings and the prayers of our elders that are here. Listen to them and create yourself to be a good human being, so when we sit down with one another, we can support one another. Take those fundamental teachings of love. That's what brings us together. Is that love for our land, and that love for our water, and the love for the people. That's what brings us together. Let that be our strength. Don't let your ego get in the way. Don't let any fear or anger get in your way. Come together and love one another, and let that be our strength, and we'll show the world. We'll show them there's a better way. How we could unite. How we could be together. How we could stand for who we believe in.
This was all prophesied. And these are not the days of prophecies, these are the days of the fulfillment of the prophecies. And there is no power on heaven or earth that will stop the restoring and the protecting and the restoring of our beloved Mother Earth. There's none. But this must be accomplished through unprecedented, unified action. Unprecedented unified action. And so all I have to ask, and we're going to pray with these sacred bundles here. We have Teshunka, we Kilko's bundle, we have the bundle of the prayers for the International Treaty to Protect the Salish Sea. We're going to pray with those just for a minute. But I would ask this. When we do these ceremonies, we do them with all our heart and soul. And as I know you came up here and defended and protected this sacred land with all your heart and soul. All I ask is this. Before anybody leaves this mountain, if there's been any misunderstanding between anybody, let the ego go. That's what we call humility. Call humility and reach over and shake hands. Nobody should leave this mountain without, you don't have to say, I'm wrong, this is wrong, just shake hands. We have lots further to go. lot further to go than this. This is just the beginning.
This is that day foretold long ago. This is that day foretold long ago. Not 1,000 years ago, not 10,000 years ago, more than that. And when Phil and I were young, the elders said to us, "We wish we were you, because you were the ones that are going to be living during the time of great changes upon the earth, the change of Mother Earth, the changes that Mother Earth will bring about." So I just want to say one thing, that as a former health professional, retired now, I believe that Mother Earth is in palliative care. Have you ever been in palliative care? In palliative care, people have an elevated temperature usually because the body is struggling to save itself. Up on the earth we call that global warming. In palliative care, people's hair begins to fall out. Here on Mother Earth, that's the death of the trees. The trees are dying anywhere on earth that you go. 95% of the elms on the East Coast have died. You go up to the Coquihalla, as far as you can see, the trees are dead. You know, and you know what? Sometimes when you're in a palliative care ward and people come in and that person is passing on, they say, "Oh, we're going to go golfing next week." But you know they ain't going golfing next week. The person is passing on. And what the person really wants more than anything else is the same thing that Mother Earth really wants more than anything else right now. Truth.
Right on.
Truth.
Right on.
And there is very little truth in this world. There are people that deceive themselves for the sake of making great amounts of money, that tell themselves that they and their kids will be all right by other tribal people starved to death or even shot to death on the spot. There's not a lot of truth in the world. So I just want to thank each and every one of you today here that are really here in a spirit of truth, that are here standing for the earth. You may look around at this mountain, but actually this mountain is looking at you. Creation is looking at you right now. And there is going to come a day not too far in the future, you'll be glad that you stood for truth. Truth will be your only defense, your only helper. All the money, all the military power, all the economic power in the world is not going to stop Mother Earth from making the changes, the prophesied changes that are coming. The prophesied people would begin to stand up for the earth before these changes occur, and I see that some of those people, as I look at you today, I see it's you. You're the one standing. I wanted to come up here. This is the first time I've been up here. My children have been up here supporting things earlier in the week, but I wanted to come up here today because I heard that prayers were going to happen, and I believe in that, the power of that. And I believe that we are to answer the prayers that were made countless generations ago, that at least upon the earth some human beings were alive. The changes that are coming. You know, as Mother Earth goes through her shaking, sometimes in palliative care people shake at the very end, as Mother Earth will shake to save herself, and she will save herself. And she will, as she saves herself, will be looking for those people who have walked in truth and stood in truth. And you will be happy that you did. All my relations.
Welcome to this Indian land, to the land of our Burrard brothers and sisters. My name is Audrey. I'm from Musqueam. I'm the granddaughter of the late Stephen and Selena August. There's a new phrase you guys have been hearing me use. It is sacred, this Musqueam land. And it is something that, it's more than just words. It's a knowledge, it's a feeling, it is an energy that moves through all of us, and that is why we are here. That is what is uniting us, because together we will stop Kinder Morgan, we will stop all of the destructive forces that are killing the future. And I would like to say thank you to all of the people who have played such a big part in organizing, and to all the people who've turned up with their drums and with your medicine and with your songs and prayers, because if we need it, it is now. We are potentially at the beginning of a big uphill swing here, so we got to keep that momentum going. Everybody just keep up with your prayers, keep up with your good work, and keep up with the supporting of each other and the taking care of yourself, because that is the way that we move forward. And we will be here together until this is over, and we will be here afterwards enjoying this mountain as we've always meant to be.
To was a battle, a skirmish perhaps, but very significant in that this has set the tone for any time a company puts a shovel in the ground to try and get a pipeline through. It's obviously bigger than Burnaby Mountain. It's bigger than the Trans Mountain Kinder Morgan pipeline. This is about whether the country is going to be the laggard on climate change in the world, or whether we're at a turning point where we're going to become part of the solution. And I think what happened on Burnaby Mountain in the last week is evidence that people have reached that breaking point where they are just sick and tired of inaction on climate change. They're sick and tired of a federal government that bulldozes existing laws, 50 years of existing environmental laws in order to pave the way for big oil. They're sick and tired of First Nations being marginalized in decision making on their own lands. People are sick and tired of the way in which big corporations are taking over the democracy, and it all came to a head in a beautiful galvanizing protest on Burnaby Mountain. And we had a success. That's what happens when people come together.
That our policies are being made in the oil patch instead of in Ottawa. And then every once in a while, someone comes along, a politician with heart, a politician with courage, who's willing to stand up. And we're lucky enough today to have one of those with us. Give it up for Kennedy Stewart.
Hello. So is it just my imagination, or did the sun come out when Kinder Morgan left the mountain? Look, this has just been a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I hope it's once in a lifetime. I hope that the company learned its lesson and just stays away. I can't tell you, when I got off the plane from Ottawa on Friday, Nathan Cullen and I came up here. We're all ready for, the mayhem that's been caused by this company trying to unjustly force a pipeline through this mountain. And the first thing we saw was a helicopter leaving with equipment, and we thought, oh, we've won. We've won as a community. So I just wanted to say how proud I am, first, of people from Burnaby that really have been taking this on the chin right from the very beginning, and it just standing up, not knowing what's going to happen from minute to minute, but just having the courage to come forward and stand up. So let's hear it for the people of Burnaby that's been standing up to Kinder Morgan. And then, of course, I would like to thank the original Burnaby inhabitants, the First Nations that have been right there with the residents of Burnaby right from the beginning, before, during, and I know as we go forward, we have a very, very tight connection now between the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Musqueam, and I must say how proud I am that this has actually brought our communities closer together. So let's hear it for the First Nations as well. And during the first few days of the injunction, where nobody knew what was happening, it was so great to have people from all over British Columbia come and help us. And that really, again, so I'd like to thank all people, like to welcome you to Burnaby, but I'd also like to say thank you very much for all your support. And we won this one. So thank you, everybody. So there's a long way to go on this. The National Energy Board just seems to want to bend over backwards to help these pipeline companies. But this is the first time that a pipeline company has touched the ground in British Columbia, and look what they got. They got a face full of people that say, we don't want this, and we're going to stand up, so don't try it anymore. I just want to say that I will continue to support while I'm here in Burnaby, but also try to be your voice in the House of Commons. It's great pleasure. Every time I get 25 signatures on a petition, I can stand up for a minute in the House of Commons and I can tell Harper right to his face that he's made a mistake. So just wanted to say thanks very much for your support. I'll continue to work with you, and I continue to try to be your voice in Ottawa. Thank you very much.
So where do we want our children and our children to be? As that song was sung, that's for the future. And that's what these bundles are put together, so that it is a reminder of who we are as human beings and how we need to stand together, because that commitment is being made to the Creator and to our dear Mother. First of all, thank you for this day. We ask you at this time, Creator, for blessings.
Thanks to all the elders, the people who've been tending the sacred fire, all you all people who've been showing support in making all this happen. It's such a beautiful thing. It's such an honor for us to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, now we're a revolution. So one of the amazing things over the last couple of years, I'm so freaked out by that drone, hold on. One of the amazing things over the last couple of years has been to see so many different people from so many different communities stand up and say no. We've seen scientists marching in the streets because of the Harper government cutting all the funding for climate research and oil sands research, and because they've been muzzling scientists, we've seen academics from universities across the country stepping up and calling for divestment. We've seen academics, especially here at SFU and at UBC, applying to be interveners in the pipeline process. One of those academics who has been really leading the charge, who founded UBC 350, who has been a tireless advocate, knocking on doors and organizing for several years, is George Hoberg. Let's give it up for George Hoberg.
What a beautiful day to be on unceded Coast Salish territory. Why are so many academics leaving their PowerPoint behind and getting out into the streets and out in the mountain to protest? Whether it's Lynn Cornby, who crossed the line to get arrested, or the hundreds of academics who I was here with on Friday. I think it's because of what we know and who we teach. I'm a professor, I'm a political scientist by background. I study environmental and natural resource policy, and I specialize in the regulatory process. And one of the things I know about the regulatory process is that the process that the NEB has to review pipelines is broken. I'm part of a group of 30 scientists and academics who applied to be interveners in the NEB process to talk about climate change, and we were all rejected. We were rejected because we weren't directly affected, and more importantly and more appallingly, because we wanted to talk about climate, and climate is outside the scope of what the NEB has to say. That's ridiculous. Trying to evaluate a dirty oil pipeline without thinking about climate impacts, it's like, I don't know, what it's like. It's like deciding to drink a bottle of scotch because you like the label and not worrying about how you're going to get home or the inevitable, unavoidable hangover you're going to have the next day. If we talked about climate science, what we know, you know, they had that line, they got the GPS coordinates wrong with the line over there that you weren't allowed to cross, right? But even if they got the coordinates right, that wouldn't be the right line. For me, the line that we can't afford to cross is the one that was set by global leaders in 2009 at Copenhagen, when they said we can't afford to let global warming go beyond 2 degrees Celsius, or otherwise we'll face catastrophic climate change. Now that line has huge implications for things like dirty oil pipelines. We know that if, climate scientists have calculated that if we want to stay within that 2-degree limit, we can only afford to burn so much more carbon. That's what we call the carbon budget. And we know from that carbon budget that we need to keep 80% of existing fossil fuel reserves in the ground. So we know we need to keep the oil in the ground, and if we need to keep the oil in the ground, that means we absolutely cannot afford to build new significant fossil fuel infrastructure like the Kinder Morgan pipeline, which they're planning to operate for many decades, when we know what we really need to do is move the energy system towards one that's based on clean energy. So that's what climate science tells us. And what my colleagues in engineering tell us is that that clean energy future is perfectly feasible technologically. What my economic colleagues tell us is that that clean energy future is not only smart, it's also affordable. I work with a group of policy scientists, and what we do is we design the policy tools that allow us to transition from the dirty framework that we have now to a clean energy future. We know how to do all those things. What's missing is the courage of politicians to step forward and enact the policies we need to protect the future. So that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of academics are opposed, but it's also because I think we're teachers. And when you're a teacher, you're reminded on a daily basis of your moral duty to contribute to a better future for your students, for today's youth. And when I teach in big classes, I teach about climate science and climate policy, and I look out and I can see in the faces of students they're worried for their future. But I also see something else. I can see this unmistakable and unshakable faith that a better world is possible, and I know that it is. But in order to get there, what we need is we need to elect politicians that are going to stand up and say no to big oil and say yes to effective climate policies and to a better future for the next generation. Thank you.
To that place overlooking the ocean, our hearts will lead the way.
I want to introduce you to Joyce Murray, who is the MP for Vancouver Quadra with the Liberal Party. One of the highlights for me of this week, I've been here on the mountain every day, and I've been doing what I can to help people get their voice heard. But when you're here every day, you don't really know what's going on. So I woke up one morning, and I think the highlight of the week for me was I woke up and heard Ralph Goodall, who's the deputy leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, saying this week made it clear to him that at this time, Kinder Morgan does not have the community support or the social license to proceed with this project. So we have a long way to go, and everybody's working out, everybody's doing what they need to do and figuring out their part in it. But make no mistake that our voices here on this mountain were heard loud and clear in Ottawa, and the National Energy Board has had a serious shake-up, and we'll all be watching very closely for what's to come. So thank you so much, Joyce, for coming out to join us on the mountain today. Joyce Murray, thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Karen, and thanks for the invitation to come and join you here. I want to congratulate you for what you've done. And even though the National Energy Board is not open to your voices have been open to all of Canada and have been heard literally across the country. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And I want to thank people like Holly, who I used to plant trees with back in our late teens. And all of the friends, family members, and that I've met up here, and for everyone that's doing this, the academics, the environmental leaders, the mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers, the Indigenous communities, the scientists. It's that diversity of voices that has meant that this has been powerful right across the country. So as you may know, I stood in my leadership race for putting a price on carbon, and I stood against this pipeline. And I'm pleased to say that good public policy is a core value for the Liberal Party of Canada. So our leader, Justin Trudeau, has made it clear that he is committed to putting a price on carbon. He is committed to fixing the broken NEB process, and really broken it is. And he's also, what he is saying is the communities count. So governments may grant permits, but only communities can grant permission. Are we granting permission? So that is key to the situation. Your voices are communicating, and I feel very proud as a Vancouver Member of Parliament to live in a city where our mayor and our council have said the people of Vancouver do not grant permission. The people of Burnaby do not grant permission, and Indigenous communities around this area do not grant permission. So thank you for your part in this. It's been hugely important, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John Clark. I'm the person that went to the Burnaby Council and had this set aside as a conservation area back in 1972-73.
And Zipporah was just telling me about the NEB. What's going on there?
Well, there's 7 of us that are petitioning we petitioned the NEB because we felt that we had been restricted in our constitutional right to examine the NEB and present what we knew to them. There's been a totally flawed process, and people are not being able to question the NEB or cross-examine them, and it's basically taken away our constitutional rights to express ourselves and ask the questions that we need to ask to find out on what basis Kinder Morgan is going to be allowed to proceed or not proceed with this the pipeline expansion proposal.
Now this whole protest, is it about more than just oil?
It's about the constitutionality, the fact that also I'm a very proud Canadian, and I find that our democratic process has absolutely been traded away to, in this case, a big oil company from Texas, and it's incredibly disheartening to see that we're not being able to express ourselves, to have a meaningful part in the process. They talk about the National Energy Board hearings, but to me, hearings implies that somebody is listening, and you have to have somebody speaking and somebody listening for there to be hearings. And I was downgraded. I have an awful lot of knowledge about this mountain, about the tank farm, about I've lived here for 68 years. I've lived right next to the tank farm for 42 of those years, and I applied as an intervener, and I am thoroughly convinced I simply knew too much about what has gone on with that tank farm, and on that basis I was reduced to commenter status, and commenter status you just get to turn in a letter. The only real way to get to the truth is by a process where you have an opportunity to cross-examine, and this has simply been denied in this situation.